What is up, RotoGrinders? NBA, NFL. It's a combination platter show. NBA tip-off is 8 o'clock on the East Coast. The NFL locks at 8:15. We think we can get it all in by 8 or so on the East Coast. We must stay a minute or so later. We will do that to answer questions. What's up, Chad? Kindly hit that like button. Do you subscribe? Do you turn on those notifications? Shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy 2 times said y'all fixing to get shuttle caked. That's a reference to the baseball streets. There you go. I don't know. I'm curious who gets shuttle cake tonight. We'll have that conversation later on. Myself, Dean Shavelson at DFS_Almanac, as well as TJ Zwarych, one of the greatest DFS players in all of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Multitasking tonight, not just producing, but also doing the analyzing. Then you have 2-time $1 million winner. It's Chop. Chop, we're doing basketball first. 3 basketball games. It is the perfect sprint slate. They're all tipping off at the same exact time. TJ, you're raising your hand. What do we got?
We were going to do football first.
You're right. I saw that memo. I registered. I read it, and then it went here. It went out here, or maybe vice versa. But yeah, there you go. You are correct, sir. We are doing football first. Might be the best football game of the week. Like usually Thursday night, we get these stinkers, we get these crappers. The Carolina Panthers, an insert terrible team here. We gave that team to Germany. Germany's going to watch that game this week. But Cincinnati, Baltimore, a couple new players as well. The trade deadline. Herbert playing for the Bengals tonight, traded over from Chicago. We got Deontay Johnson as well for the Ravens. 53 total. Baltimore, big boy favorite, 6.5. It's tough to win on the road Thursday night. Chop, I will throw it to you first. Give me you have general assessments. You have people already asking in the chat about captains. Well, what is your general strategy before we fully dive in? And the other thing is, like, what are you doing? You making 150? You making 2? You making 1? How many lineups are you making tonight?
Oh, we're probably making around. Yeah, we might go with about 50 lineups tonight when it's all said and done. Let me see what how we're looking and what the prize pools looks like when we get out of here. Yeah, what's the general overview here on this particular football game is that man, this looks like a really good game. Like just fun. Real life and fantasy. Like this is a lot at stake for Cincinnati, and and obviously Baltimore doesn't want to lose again. So there's a lot at stake in real life. It's the contrasting styles in real life are going to make for a really good game. And just generally, I think we're just going to get good football, which we don't always get on the island games. We're going to get like 2 good quarterbacks who are, I'm excited about this game. It's going to be fun. And also when we get to talk about it here a little bit deeper, it's digging in when I was researching this thing, and because you research for an island game a lot more than you do for 12 games on a Sunday. You can't really break them down like that. But I didn't really realize just how centered both these teams are. Like how much they depend on 3 guys, or so in their offense. Like it's going to make it for a very fun slate.
Yeah, Burrow, Chase, Lamar, Henry, and Flowers. Right. I guess Gesicki now has really stepped up in the absence of T. He's been spectacular. I'm going to throw it to TJ in a second. I did see somebody. This kind of got popped in my head. I want to give credit, but somebody put this on my Twitter time on the other day that the ADOT for Jamar Chase, I should be specific, is like half without T. Higgins. It's like 5 or so. He has not been running the better routes or the deeper routes on the reg. TJ, how do you see this game? Is this? I mean, I tend to miss these island games. I'm a red zone guy. I like my basketball. I'm going to watch some Panthers hockey, but I think I'm going to be watching some football tonight too, because as Chop said, this looks like a fun one. How do you see it?
Yeah, I agree. This is probably the game of the week, and it sucks from an NFL main slate perspective because this game, and we talked about that a little bit on the Pick 6 show, this game and Monday Nighter with the Rams and the Dolphins are 2 of the most exciting fantasy games of the week. But this one should be a really good real-life game. I have 20 lineups set and ready to go on DraftKings as long as we don't have any funny business. Same for NBA, got 20 lineups set and ready to go there as well, as long as we don't have any funny business. But this should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to my builds. And we got, for those who watched us on Monday, they got a pretty good little show with some feeling
Double plums
plays. And I'll just a little tease here. I got the clip ready to go. We stay tuned for the Feel It in Your Plums play today because as you can see, they've been red hot.
Fire off some more questions if you got them. In the meantime, I'm gonna start off with TJ for his Feel It in the Plums play of the night and see where he's gonna take us.
Should be obvious, I've been hyping him up the whole time, and it's K. Dotton. I absolutely love him today. I'm betting on him on not just to go over his receiving yard total, but over all of his alt receiving yard totals. I got him laddered from 50 all the way up to 90 today. He's going to be in all three of my lineups on DraftKings, but he would be in every lineup I played, even if I was running 150.
I have to say, I love Auden quite a bit tonight also. Yeah, just like that. I can't get my Feel It in the Plums. I just think these Tampa cheap wide receivers are a little bit too risky for me. So I'm going to turn to Kansas City, and I've been kind of hinting at it a little bit, but I got a lot of love for DeAndre Hopkins tonight. That's my Feel It in the Plums play tonight.
Bang. So stay tuned for Feel It in the Plums today because K. Dotton was the second highest scorer on the Monday Night Football game. Who was number one? It was DeAndre Hopkins. So let's keep that going for today. I got a really fun one in terms of captain who I'm liking today. I got a nice Feel It in the Plums play there that I'm differentiating with. About half of my lineups are with one player specifically at the captain position today.
I learned two things in that video. One, you guys are hot. You guys nailed it. Spectacular for both y'all. And one of you two has showered since Monday. I'm not going to say who, but one of you two has showered since Monday. So there you go. Shout out to the Plums. Hopefully they stay hot. TJ, you said you're running 20 lineups. Do you force any sort of builds? Like you saying, 4-2s, that kind of stuff? Is that something you do? Is that something you force or just kind of sort of happens organically with the things you're plugging in? Are you just running sim stuff and just whatever the sims give you? Or you kind of pick and choose? I like this one. I'm going to throw that one out. What is your approach? And do we also, one more, I'm going to keep firing questions at you. If you're making 20 lineups, are you bold? Do you say, hey, this is my captain. That's it. Captain for 20 lineups. Or it's 50-50, or you just kind of disperse and say, I have 7 different captains in 3 different times.
So I actually hand built all my lineups today, and I apologize because I have 23, not 20. I have a main 3 entry max, and then I have a 20 entry max set as well, and then all 23 of them in the 300K to first. But I have Mike Gesicki in over half of my lineups at the captain position. I'm going very bold there today. I'm not quite locking one player in, but I have one Derrick Henry captain lineup. And that's it for somewhat chalky plays. Half of them are Mike Gesicki. I have a few Charlie Kolar. I have some Mark Andrews with no Isaiah Likely today. I'm going heavy on the other tight ends who are way underpriced for Baltimore. And I even have a couple Deontay Johnson captain lineups just in case we get a bit of a DeAndre Hopkins situation from last game. It's not his first game anymore. It's his second game. He knows the playbook a little bit better, more involved with the offense. And so I have some Deontay Johnson captain lineups as well.
Did I hear Charlie Kovar captain? I want to make sure I heard that.
Charlie Kolar captain. I do have a couple. I have about 3 of those in 20 lineups.
What are you forcing salary to be left over with those? Because otherwise, otherwise it's probably the same next 5 guys that go with them, or no?
No, there are actually some different variations you can go with it. But I didn't worry about leaving any salary just because while those may be duplicated in the millies, I got them in some smaller field stuff too.
I did run some sim stuff. Let's see. SimLabs, Lamar, 25%, Chase, 21%, Henry, 16, Andrews, 10, Chase Brown, 9. Kolar did land in 2%, and Tanner Hudson also landed in 2%, which is like kind of the similar on the other side. Chop, how about yourself? How's your approach? Are you doing a similar thing as far as spreading out your captains? Sort of kind of hone in on a couple of guys and just say, give me different paths around them. What is your approach?
Yeah, usually on the showdowns, I like to lock in a guy. I'd like just take my best guess at who's going to be there. That's just what I've found to be my best method for actually winning. and not just kind of breaking even and chugging along. Kind of want to win something every once in a while. And so I just lock a guy in. Tonight, it's a little bit tougher because there's so many choices here, man, to pick from tonight that are all like really, really good. I would have said Joe Burrow, but I don't like the T. Higgins news, so kind of takes a little shine off of him. But I'm undecided right now exactly who I want to lock in, but I've got some candidates. But I'm just probably going to lock a guy in and just run with it and see what happens. These teams played already. They played a bunch, And what Cincinnati did was they tried to take away the running game. They tried to get up on the line, take away Lamar Jackson, take away Derrick Henry. And they forced Baltimore to try to beat them downfield. And what Baltimore really doesn't have is a downfield guy. Their best receiver, when I talk about being a very concentrated offense, is Zay Flowers by a mile, production-wise, target-wise, is Zay Flowers. But he is not a down-the-field threat. Now, he'll catch it short and break it long, but that's not what Cincinnati's okay with, catching it short, because they're going to tackle you. But so Baltimore in that last game they played tried to beat them down the field with tight end. So I love the Kohler call. Like Kohler was getting downfield the last game against them. And it's a possibility he does it again. And Mark Andrews is starting to come around a little bit. Maybe he's feeling healthier. So I got a feeling these tight ends are going to be going downfield for Baltimore tonight. So it's interesting, man.
Got a projection around 5 or so on Kohler. That's not horrendous as a median projection. And what do you really need for him to, because obviously you're building around him. And if he gets, I don't know, TJ, what do we want if we have Kohler in our captain? We want 3 and 30 and a touchdown, and we're thrilled.
Thrilled, exactly.
Oh,
especially
God, you're winning a GPP with 330 and a touchdown out of that guy.
Yeah, especially if your high end guys perform as well. Like if you get the combination correct, you pick the right. If you're playing 3 out of 3 of Chase, Lamar, and Henry, all of them perform very well. If you're only playing 2 out of 3, you pick the right combination of 2. But if you get 330 and 1 for Kohler, you're thrilled with those captain lineups.
We have any reports as far as Deontay Johnson and Herbert, as far as how much they're going to play? Anything as far as the beats? Have you guys seen anything?
I've seen nothing, which really makes me want to be overweight on Deontay Johnson, because it kind of seems like the projections are low and nobody wants to play him.
Yeah, well, we've seen everything's case by case and team by team, but we've seen who was the guy that jumps to a new team? Like Cooper jumping the Buffalo, didn't know the routes, right? He's been in the NFL a long time.
Lamar Cooper.
The other guy was there's another receiver who played 15 snaps or so, and I'm not trying to discourage it. You're trying to win, TJ, so I get it. And who knows? Just leaning into the unknown certainly could be a strategy. I see some questions dropping in chat, also some potential captains out there. Our guy Eric wants to know thoughts on Justice Hill, Chop. Justice Hill, somebody you're prioritizing tonight?
Well, prioritize is not in the captain spot, that's for sure. But, when you dig into these things, I realize that Justice Hill has a really, really solid role in this offense, especially if Cincinnati is going to try to take away Derrick Henry, especially if Cincinnati jumps out to a lead and, Baltimore has to pass a little more in the second half than they really want to. He has a really solidified role in the offense. So I'm not discouraging playing him in flex. He's not a captain for me, but by all means, I think he definitely has a path to being in the optimal lineup.
Well, the interesting thing I saw in the Sims, I kind of ran down the captains. I ran 100 lineups in the Sims. I gave wide variants, not super, super wide, but the third level, and 0 Burrow popped up in captain. I thought that was pretty interesting. He did get 50% in the flex, but yeah, just no anticipation here of a potential Burrow ceiling game. And he's got to get there with the, not really going to get there with the legs most likely. So he's got to go 303. So that's just thought that was interesting. That
it's tough when he doesn't come at much of a discount from Lamar and Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. How are you prioritizing the big spends, TJ? Lamar, Henry, Chase. Do you have any sort of big separation, any sort of bold takes for you?
Lamar and Henry are definitely the priorities for me. Derrick Henry is going to be the one that I'm getting to the most of the 3. I think Cincinnati's going to have a tough time stopping him. I think they're going to be moving the ball any way they want, which makes me like Burrow and the pass catchers as run backs. I don't hate the idea of we're projecting Burrow to go under-owned in the captain position right now. So I really don't mind the idea of going Burrow at captain, Derrick Henry on the other side as a run back, and then making sure you get, Gesicki, Yoshivas, maybe a couple of the backup tight ends, something like that. I like that build, even though I don't have it. But I'm trying to get heavily overweight on the Baltimore guys, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I'll probably be pretty even to Burrow and Chase in the flex positions, but I'll be way underweighted at captain. And then Zay Flowers is scary, but he's definitely the player that I'm most underweight on by far. I have very little Zay Flowers.
How about yourself, Chop? Players up top, any bold stances you're taking amongst like Lamar and Chase and Burrow and Henry, as far as well over, well under? Are we still kind of figuring that out?
I'm kind of figured out the exact ownership on them yet, but I'll say this: when you look at the two teams, like you look at Baltimore, I think Lamar Jackson's had one week this whole entire season where he's not been in the top two Baltimore players at the end of the game, fantasy-wise, DK points, right? Like he's always one or two, and it's usually him or Henry trading off those spots. But, well, yeah, maybe not him and Henry, but a lot of times Henry, but always Jackson and a little bit of Zay Flowers mixed in there. And yet I'm looking at like the salaries on Lamar and Henry are $200 difference, and the ownership, bottom line, what I'm trying to say, and because the same thing could be said with Joe Burrow, I don't think the quarterbacks are getting owned enough in this game. The price between Henry and Lamar, minimum. The price between Burrow and Chase, Burrow is actually cheaper than Jamar Chase. And yet, we're going to see like Chase and Henry gather just as much ownership for the most part. Yeah, I don't think the quarterbacks are getting owned enough. I think that's my stance right there, is that I'll be way over, like almost basically locking in those quarterbacks in some fashion, whether it's flex or captain or MVP, whatever.
Do you force or lock a certain number of receivers if you're playing Burrow, if you're playing Lamar? I guess a little bit different because Lamar can theoretically get there by himself, right? But do you force in at least one with Burrow as far as one of his receivers, pass catcher? You cap it at a certain number. Do you mess around with that stuff, or do you feel like it kind of box you out of possibly getting the optimal?
I don't have a rule in showdowns that I put in there because I got a player pool, and my player pool reflects, okay, I like Joe Burrow. That means I like Jamar Chase. That means I like, Gesicki or whoever's playing for him that particular night. And I've already accounted for that with my likes, my little, arrow up things in lineup HQ and stuff like that, or maybe I bump them up a couple of points in the projection to make sure I get them. So I don't have to mess around with a rule because, I don't want it spitting out some weird stuff, and also don't want it to get handcuffed, and say it can't return all the lineups I really want. So I don't mess around with too many rules. I just make sure I got them in the projections and in my likes that I got it accounted for.
Yeah, like correlation is great, but sometimes it, correlating stuff and over correlating kind of like get you away from, what is the nuts. And like many times you'll see like, how did this lineup win? Who would possibly, this doesn't make any sense. But, it's you run 1,000 simulations, but it's just one. It's just one of 1,000 that we get
before we get too far away from the possible segue. Much like Chop is going through his player pool and hitting the likes on his players, make sure you are hitting the like on this video as well.
There you go. Also, I should mention, by the way, Splash is still running a lot of Survivor Revival tournaments. So it's Pick'em fantasy tier contest. Join the community. splashsports.com/RotoGrinders. Promo code ROTO10. ROTO10 gets you a $10 bonus when you're signing up for a limited time, $20 in quick picks entries, and you'll get an additional $10. We're talking about SimLabs. We're talking about, lineup HQ and all that kind of stuff. You want access to all the bells, all the whistles, everything you have. $79 and change gets you the first month. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, all the sports. If you want just NBA, we'll talk NBA in a second. That's just $5 more than NBA. So by all means, if that's what you want, you just want NBA a la carte, fire off and get that. But you can get them all for $79 and change for your first month. Links in the description. Okay. TJ, you have any sort of favorite cheapies you're going overweight on? Like this is like, for whatever reason, this is going to be my favorite cheapie. Any bold takes as far as you're Xing somebody out or elevating somebody tremendously?
Kolar is definitely the cheapie that I'm going to be most overweight on. I think Noto brought up a great point in his grind down for this showdown game, and that's to go underweight on Evan McPherson today. And that's basically just on the reason that if the Bengals are going to want to keep up with Baltimore, they're probably going to have to score touchdowns, maybe making them lighter on the field goals. Justin Tucker maybe in a bit better of a spot because they'll kick field goals when they're up, but the Bengals will be forced to go for it on fourth down, maybe a little more than they want to, having to come from behind. We do have a great question, and I pivoted the SimLabs screen share here to FanDuel so we can talk about some MVPs as well. But from Jensono FD, apologies I'm coming in late, but thoughts on Keaton Mitchell, particularly on FanDuel. I think Keaton Mitchell is interesting on both sides. It's his first game coming back from injury. He's probably not going to just straight up take the Justice Hill role. Justice Hill is a very good pass blocker. And so Keaton Mitchell probably not going to straight in and take it, but I bet you he's going to get a lot of third down with passing specifically designed plays today for him today. Probably not a ton of snaps, but probably some high value snaps for Keaton Mitchell today. And he is so damn fast as long as he's the same guy coming off that injury. Keaton Mitchell is a guy at his price tag on both sides, I think makes for a very interesting cheap flex.
Yeah, our projection is really, really low on him, like you said. Just chop you up a Keaton Mitchell take?
Well, I hate to be the name police guy, but it's Keaton Mitchell.
You love being the name police guy, let's be honest.
But, I mean, I respect everybody's opinion, and maybe he breaks the slate. He's like, I watched this guy in college, absolutely electric at East Carolina, right? Just fantastic. But I will probably have 0 Keaton Mitchell just because I do not like to roster guys coming back from a severe knee injury right away like this. Very few of them, I think, actually, not like TJ says, he's not going to play a lot of snaps. So maybe, all it takes is one snap for him to get loose, and who knows what, he could break it for 60 yards. He's that good. I typically don't like to roster guys who are coming back from a severe knee injury who rely on their knees like a running back does. So personally, I'm not on him.
Another potential cheapie. Oh, sorry, you go, Dean.
I was just going to say we have him projected for less than a carry. Like that's where, I mean, it's tough to say, who knows. We got him projected for less than a carry.
That's why I like him realistically, is like if he had a strong projection, then I'd probably be on the fade train because a lot of people would be playing him, and coming off a knee injury, I wouldn't want to do it. But the fact that he's only going to be 1, 2, 3% owned, I'll play him in 2 of my 20 lineups, get way over the field on him. And if they lose, they lose. I don't really care, but he's been electric in the past. And so the uncertainty is kind of why I want to take that shot. And same goes for Jermaine Burton, which Mario Donizzi brought up in chat. He got benched last game because he didn't show up to a meeting, and they had a whole game plan prep for him. Now, probably he's going to go out there and not play today. I have him in 2 lineups as well, and I don't think he's going to play very many snaps. But if he does, if they said, hey, if they talk some sense into him and said, all right, let's implement that game plan now, I'm going to want to make sure I have pieces of it. So that's another way I'm embracing the uncertainty, going against what I actually think will happen. But because if it does happen, I'm going to make sure I want to get a piece of it. And then we have questions about Irwin and Tanner Hudson as well. Irwin is the guy I like the least of the group, but I don't mind taking shots on the backup Cincinnati tight ends, Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson, because all of these guys got utilized even when Eric All was in the lineup. Now that he's not, I don't really like that. That makes them quite a bit better. They were on the field anyways. Now they're going to be even more. So Gesicki's basically a receiver. And so Sample and Hudson are the 2 tight ends, and they're both sub 3K.
I kind of like the Burton bounce back. He's already kind of was punished, right? Maybe his punishment is over. 20.5 is his prop in the streets, which is not a terrible number as far as his over under. You can still do worse than that. I think he's kind of interesting. I think it's a pretty sneaky call actually, but the floor is rough. The floor is possibly 0 on Burton. We do have to talk basketball really shortly, but I do want to finish this conversation as far as football. Chop, your thoughts as far as Burton, as far as some of these cheapies, any big stands you're taking? And I don't know if we want to segue right into the plums, but I know the people people want the plums, and the sequel is rarely as good as the original. The original was good. You guys both nailed it. We have to go against the grain, and the sequel, we have to get like a Back to the Future 2. It's got to be a spectacular sequel tonight.
My thoughts on Burton first is, man, hate to give away spoilers or anything. I was very, very close to thinking about having Burton as my plums play of the night.
Do it.
I don't want the people to it's not I don't mind not being safe, but that's really reckless. Like he could do nothing at all, and he might not. He might just be a warm body who's active.
That's what the plums are, John.
No, the plums is to give them not a little bit off the radar, but still some good production. You don't want to airball your plums, man. You don't want your plums hitting the air, that's for sure. But
Ricky Bobby, man, Ricky Bobby.
I'm thinking there's a chance. This guy is he has talent, and they're down T. Higgins, and there's only so much they can still squeeze out of Gesicki, right? They got to do something from somewhere. So there's a thought that they probably do have some good packages for him. They probably were. By the way, did you see the photo of Jermaine Burton in the casino after the game last year? Just all by himself, didn't it? Playing
one of us.
Yeah, man. So I don't know. Maybe he's got some mental problems. That's not a big deal. Antonio Brown had him. He was the best receiver in the game for a long time. So he's got talent. If they got packages for him, yeah, by all means, he could be a showdown winner tonight. Absolutely. So I don't think it's going to be my plums play of the night, but he's really good.
Well, do you want to tell the people who your plums play is?
Okay. So it'd be too much of a layup to give you a quarterback from this game or Derrick Henry for me. That'd be a little too much. And Jamar Chase, those guys are all going to get their production. They're all good players, very good. I'm gonna go slightly, and I don't want to take TJ's guy. So I'm not going to take a tight end. Maybe TJ likes a tight.
But he knows who it is already. We're getting the chemistry going.
So I'm not going to take him. But I like that guy though. But I'm going Andre Ichivas. I'm going Andre Ichivas. Okay.
I don't want to be the pronunciation police, Chop. But it's not. You know what it is.
It's somebody's gonna. I think Joe Burrow is gonna have 300 yards passing, multiple touchdowns, even if it's in catch-up, comeback mode, whatever you want to call it, garbage time. Joe Burrow's got to get there because that's the way that they're going to beat Baltimore is through the air tonight. Doesn't have T. Higgins. I think they're going to do a pretty good. I don't know what's going to happen with Jamar Chase and the coverage he's going to get from Baltimore. He may get their best cover corner. That doesn't scare me a lot, but it makes me like the other guys a little bit more. And like I said, Burton's a little bit out there. So I'm going with what I think is the number 2 receiver here. I think, they target him around the red zone too. So let's roll with that.
I want to get TJ's, but I just want to say that, they were game planning. Their guy was going to be Burton, and they had Yoshi at the time. Burton's a better talent than Yoshi. That's
no
universally thought, right?
For the most part,
raw, but probably better talent, better upside. But Yoshi's he's been a red zone target, like you said, a couple of times. He had that one game where he had 2 touchdowns and 2 receptions. TJ, see Yoshivas and raise him. What do you got?
I got one lineup of my 3 mains that has Joe Burrow, Andre Yoshivas, and in the captain, Mike Gesicki, who is the guy I have captain in half of my lineups today. My favorite play on the slate by far, much like Cade Otton in the game before. In addition to having him in almost all of my DK lineups, I have him laddered for receptions all the way up to 6+. I have him laddered for receiving yards all the way up to 80+. I'm all aboard the Mike Gesicki train tonight as my plums play.
So we got to pivot quickly to basketball. And if we don't really want to stay much longer after 8, if you have to, I guess we'll answer a couple questions. But for football, so stick around if you have any football questions. We'll try to answer those in a bit. But got to do this one quickly, boys. TJ and Chop. The good thing is we have essentially every single starting lineup. If you missed it, Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing basketball tonight. The other big thing that Milwaukee did is they put Andre Jackson in the starting lineup. Everybody that you expected to play tonight is playing, with the exception of Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is out. Lauri Markkanen is back. Jordan Clarkson is back. And they said both those guys do not have a minutes limit, which I thought was pretty interesting. We'll see. But it was an interesting note. We haven't seen those guys in a little bit of a while. there for Utah. It also makes Utah kind of jammed a little bit because they might have one too many guys. So curious to see how those minutes shuffle out. But yeah, let's do this quickly. Minnesota, Chicago, 226.5 is the total. Minnesota's a 10-point favorite. We know Chicago gives the most points in the paint. They give up they have the fastest pace in the league as well. I think Minnesota is probably the best team to focus on tonight, TJ. Your thoughts, Minnesota and the Bulls, and Levine is still out, so we have DeSumo once again starting again.
Couldn't agree more. These guys being the Timberwolves are my main team that I'm targeting. I'm going to have at least 3 Timberwolves in every single lineup that I play. I have Naz Reid lock button today. He's my favorite tournament play on the entire slate. I going heavily overweight on him. I got him in 100% of lineups. He and Dante DiVincenzo are my biggest stands today. They're my 2 favorite tournament plays on the slate. I have 100% Naz and 70% DiVincenzo. I like Conley, Gobert, Edwards, especially here on FanDuel. I think Edwards is probably like cash game potentially viable here, as is Mike Conley at 4,700. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a viable salary saver as well. But Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, those 2 are my guys today.
Shop, anything to add? Anything different as far as Minnesota, Chicago?
No, all the Minnesota guys stand out to me. Like it's a 3-game slate. It's it's all together. Like we get it going on quick. I like all the Minnesota guys. Like just Mike Conley's going to be chalk. I can get away from that chalk a little bit though, if I need to. But I like DiVincenzo, the Naz Reid call. I think Anthony Edwards has a good game. I think Julius Randle maybe finally has a breakout game. I like all those Minnesota players. I actually think there's a path where Rudy Gobert is pretty good tonight too, especially on FanDuel where you get those block points. So yeah, I agree. And then on the flip side there, that game, Chicago, fantastic. No Zach LaVine. So we're going to get all the same guys who produce when he's out are gonna get back in there and produce again on the best game environment on the slate.
Bulls give up the most points in the paint. Gobert scores all of his points in the paint, essentially. He's been horrendous this year. The blocks are down too. It's small sample stuff. The rebounds are down. The blocks are down. Rebounds probably getting hurt by Randall, I guess, to some degree. Just not very. And they extended it too. So he got like a 3-year deal added on. Good for him. But just like last night, I bet Gafford over on points because, centers that stick around the paint against Chicago tend to score. I have Gobert over 11.5 points. Favorite bull, Chop, my favorite bull tonight.
Yeah, it's probably Kobe. It's probably Kobe White. But
yeah,
but it's tough to. He's a little bit more expensive than Io, but I'll take the ceiling on Kobe White.
TJ, let's knock out Utah and Milwaukee. Utah is starting Keontae George, Sexton, Cody Williams, the least sexy starter, I think, on this slate. Walker Kessler. We saw John Collins really get loose last game. I think he should be hurt to some degree by marketing, and they've kind of babied his minutes up, but he's an interesting tournament play, I suppose. He feels a little overpriced on projections, but he can slowly break those. Giannis, especially on DK, probably the most popular play in the slate. The only concern is like maybe they would suppress his minutes a little bit if it's a blowout and they're 10-point favorites versus Utah. But they've only won 1 or 2 games the entire season. Both these teams have been pretty horrendous out the gate. Lillard makes for a really interesting pivot off of Giannis. What do you have, TJ? Bucks, Jazz.
Giannis is cash game must play. I think going back to that last game, you also need to play DeSumo in cash. I got him in almost every single one of my lineups there. Giannis on probably both sites is a cash game play. I'm not playing much, as is Andre Jackson Jr., and so I'm not playing much of these guys outside of those 2, but I do really like Brook Lopez for tournaments as well. So Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Andre Jackson Jr. are my main 3. I think fading Giannis and Andre Jackson Jr. in tournaments is a very viable strategy. I like Brook very much. On the Utah side of things, I have like a couple lineups where I'm playing a Markkanen or a George, something like that, one player from the Jazz when I'm playing like 3 Milwaukee players. But other than that, I don't mind the idea of just fully fading Utah today.
Utah is my least favorite team on the slate as well. And yeah, the Jackson thing is tricky. We're giving him 24 minutes, just hard to project. You could certainly see a case where he just does not close and he's not playing very good. And, Giannis is going to close. Lillard is, Lopez is, Prince probably, Portis maybe, but maybe Trent if Trent gets going. But like if he's on his threes, like he's getting punished essentially because he's been terrible. Connaughton, got to make his threes. Green can make them too, but nobody really can rely on that bunch. Chop, what do you have as far as Milwaukee and the Jazz?
Yeah, even in tournaments, and that's what I'm playing here. Even in the tournaments, I'm gonna have the lock button on Giannis. Like I'm gonna play him in every lineup. It's a small slate. You can't get away from like when a guy goes off as the biggest performer on the night on a short slate. You still need him, no matter what the ownership is, no matter any of that stuff. So it would be between Wemby and Giannis, but I'm going to lean towards Giannis here tonight. And in order to get him in there, it is going to be a lot of Andre Jackson for me. That's a very athletic wing, and I think he's going to be able to take advantage of Utah, who's, halfway. We've talked about it every slate. They're halfway in tank mode. So a guy like that should be able to have his way against the Jazz tonight. So Andre Jackson is the guy I'm using to make up for spending the money on Giannis.
All right, let's. We got one game, about 5 minutes to go. I want to see if we have any questions. Our apologies for making this a bit of a sprint. That's just how the nature of the content goes tonight with football and basketball basically happening at the same time. Did we get the last lineup? Did we get Portland? We got the Spurs. It's Paul, Castle, Champagnie, Harry Barnes, and Wemby. 217 total. San Antonio. They are in the back half of a back-to-back, but they got beat up last night, so they didn't play terribly hard. Portland on the other side. It's of note that Sharp is available. He's going to come off the bench. And also Robert Williams is available. He didn't play the other night, but I guess he's available now. So they're getting players. We're not sure if they're going to play, but I did see a note that Sharp is at least available to play tonight. And there you go. TJ is giving the people some cash game plays in the chat for both FanDuel, and I guess we talked DK mostly as well. So some of your questions hopefully are being answered. Chop, Portland and the Spurs. What do you got? And the Portland lineup, I believe, just dropped as well.
There's no surprises there, I would suppose, right? Portland, Simmons, Kamara, Avila, Grant, Aiden. No, we're good. I like Champagne, man. I like Champagne, Dean. That's I think that so I don't know if you watched last night, but the Spurs got run off the court by my Rockets, man. They really got smacked.
Ralph was there in person.
Oh, was he? Good for him, man. I wish I had a quicker trip to Houston. I'd love to catch some games, but I think some of these salary savers for San Antonio are very viable. I guess Chris Paul's not technically a salary saver, but I think Chris Paul's fine. Champagne is good. Steven Castle, I liked him last night. I like him again tonight. This is a much better matchup actually against Portland than it was last night. But for 4,400, I'm going to go with some Harrison Barnes to save a little salary. I think all these San Antonio Spurs salary savers are in good shape. I'm not getting very much Portland. I'll throw some Aiden in there, just a little bit in GPPs, just because I think he can attack the middle of the paint here, and that's about it.
What do you got there, TJ? I'm curious. Do you have a lean as far as Castle versus Champagnie? I think Keldon's also pretty interesting. It's just hard to. I don't know who's going to close out of those three. Two of those three probably closed. I couldn't tell you which ones. Do you have a take, or it's just you're throwing darts?
Yeah, I just made a rule max one of Harrison Barnes, Steven Castle, Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, and Julian Champagnie. I think Champagnie and Keldon Johnson are probably the two that I like the most. Castle, maybe the one I like the least on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, arguably the one that I like the most at only 4,400, where you get that steal and block upside as well. All of them are viable. I don't think I'd want to play more than one of them, maximum two of them in the same lineup, though. I like Wemby better than Giannis on FanDuel. I like Giannis better than Wemby on DraftKings. Chris Paul's a must-play in cash on FanDuel. He's not in DraftKings. I got the cash cores for both DraftKings and FanDuel floating across the bottom of the screen here for those that want it. Andre Jackson Jr., Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ayo Dosunmu, and then some Timberwolves for DK cash. FanDuel cash, Chris Paul, Mike Conley, Ayo Dosunmu, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, 5 over there. So not super high on this game. in general, like I'm trying to stack the heck out of Minnesota and Chicago, and I'm light on the other two, but I do like this one better than Utah and Milwaukee.
Just wanted to say, Wemby, when he hits his ceiling via stocks, especially blocks. Portland last season, top 5 as far as getting blocked, top 5 as far as giving up steals. Portland this season, top 5 as far as getting blocked, top 5 as far as giving up steals. It's a high variance thing. Sometimes it's hard to predict when so-and-so is going to get 8 or 9 or 10 stocks, but it is a good stock spot for Wemby. And that's sort of like he's been up and down. He's had some rough games this year. This certainly feels like a game where he can get loose. And, especially on FanDuel, when you times him by 3. Did we have any thoughts as far as Ayton? I'm seeing Ayton being thrown out in chat. Got any Ayton there, TJ? Any hard takes as far as DeAndre?
Totally fine for tournaments, but not somebody I'm trying to get a lot of tonight. No. I land on him when I land on him. I think I got 15, 20%, but not somebody I'm aggressively targeting. The couple questions in chat. Chris Paul or Gobert, DK last piece. Chop answered that in chat. I agree 100%. Gobert from a tournament perspective. Cash may want to go CP3, but I agree. I like Gobert quite a bit better than that. Thoughts on Dalen Terry off the bench on DraftKings? Not really interested in him. And then people also were asking questions about Delano Banton. I'm not getting any Delano Banton today with Shaden Sharp back. I think he probably doesn't even play. I think there's a good chance of that. So no Banton for me. And then 7,600 GPP or
Gobert. It's like your only option
on FanDuel. Gobert is the top option, but I think Walker Kessler at 1% ownership. Very interesting in that spot.
It's a bad spot, but it's a great ownership spot. Like what you're saying, like he's not going to get played. And Kessler's another one of those guys that can like rack up a pile of blocks.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how he gets
7
there.
blocks. If they decide to not make him have to go out and cover Lopez and just keep him in the key, hunker him down, he could get a lot of blocks in there.
I mean, the tricky thing is marketing being back, how much it mucks up their lineup, because they're saying he's going to get around 30 minutes or so. Clarkson's going to be back. Just sort of thinking about like how much he takes a hit, right? Collins should take a hit. And that's why, I mean, by the way, it's lock. But that's why we didn't really love Utah, right? Like everybody's just kind of priced up a little bit, and 2 of their better players come back, and nobody really looks good as far as value. A question or two for football before we step aside. We appreciate y'all bearing with us because we're trying to figure out how to make this best work for everybody. There's a Venn diagram. I'm sure a lot of people are playing both, but we're doing our best as far as covering both in a timely manner.
And last week we did NBA first, NFL second. This week we did NFL first, NBA second. Let us know what you like better. Let us know in the comments. If you're not watching us live, let us know in the YouTube chat if you are right now. Smash the like button on YouTube. But let us know if you'd like it, earlier. You want more time to build lineups. You want the show a half hour earlier so that we got some more time. Like let us know, because this is still very much fluid. So if you like the format today, let us know. And if not, we'd still like a little time to build lineups for NFL at the end, So if we like NBA first, NFL after, maybe we started a little earlier, but it's still fluid. So let us know your thoughts on the combo shows for these small slates.
I haven't looked ahead. I kind of assumed that the schedule flattens out a little bit for basketball, but it hasn't yet.
We're back in a combo one on Thursday. Okay.
It's okay. Fair enough. I was unaware of that. Several people are asking, they might have joined us late, about Burton. And I thought he's a really interesting
Monday, play. I meant Monday. We're back on a combo one for Monday.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Monday is a really small NBA slate.
Oh, it's a national holiday. Maybe that's one reason why the slate's kind of small.
I haven't looked. We'll figure it out. It's all right. We'll figure it out. No big deal.
It's DFS. We care about the slate today. You really think about the slate tomorrow.
I mean, just in general, combo platters. It'll be all good. We'll figure it out. We'll get it out there. But as far as Burton, there's a lot of people asking about Burton. We talked about it earlier. He could get you a 0. Like he could just be active just in case there's another wide receiver injury. Like that could be a legitimate thing, but there's also a path where they have some packages for him with T. Higgins out, and they really want to use his speed to get downfield, which is what he's very good at. And that he goes out there for a cheap price on a showdown and absolutely breaks the slate. So it could be one or the other. I tend to think that he's going to get something tonight. I think that they've put up with a lot of weird stuff in the last couple of weeks from him, and they didn't cut him. So they must really like something about him. A lot of guys get the axe for a lot less than what he's done.
He might fall asleep on the sideline for all we know, but
he might have been at the casino last night, bro. He might have been at the casino today. Like he might have just.
He
got
might
out of
still be there right now.
For real, we need to check the beat reporters, man.
Well, Dennis Rodman used to go for like a week at the casino back in the day. Just on his own binge. I'll see you guys in a week. You got to be at a certain level to get away with stuff like that. I know this is your gimmick. I don't want to step on anybody's toes or anybody's plums, but I'm gonna make Jermaine Burton, if I can do it as the host, I'm gonna have Burton as my plums play. I like the YOLO Burton play. Just lean in on it. And again, they made a game plan because they thought he was talented enough. And now also because they were without Higgins, but they see something in him, right? Maybe he's not the easiest player to work with, but they trust his talent. And I think Yoshi's kind of overrated. Yeah, fun player, but kind of overrated. So
official field of your plums plays. We got Mike Gesicki from myself, Jermaine Burton from Dean, Andre Yoshivas from Chop. And if you're playing all three of those guys, you probably want Joe Burrow, maybe even in the MVP
Triples
position. So maybe get yourself some Burrow, Gesicki, Burton, Yoshivas, run it back with you just do the Jamar Chase fade. You're running it back with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry on the other side. You're looking pretty good.
All right, boys, we're good. Ready to step aside and get out of here. Going to finalize our lineups. Chopper, good?
We good.
That was Chopper. That was TJ. I was Dean. Thanks for watching. Do hit that like button on your way out. We're out of here. Hold.
Where'd the credits go? Sorry, guys. And bye, everybody.
Credit.